Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined by my co-host, Jacob Boyers. We got no Tyler Britton today, so that means it's going to be a much better and impactful episode here for you guys. Jacob, a lot of things to cover. Obviously, Kentucky's coming off the bye week. Not too much to talk about there. Outside of what we expected, Cutter Boley officially named the number one starter as the Cats had to release a depth chart with this being an SEC opponent this week. Just overall thoughts. I know you're all aboard the Cutter Boley train. First thoughts you saw when you saw that depth chart roll out.
I mean, you said it. Not a surprise. I think we all were expecting it, with the health of Calzada, also the play of Calzada, and some of the stuff you're hearing kind of rumored around the program with him. I didn't think, Cutter did anything to make you not give him the start after Eastern Michigan. So no real surprise. I mean, in the first two games, Calzada's consistency was about as much as our co-star Tyler Britton here. I mean, just not bringing it every day, and
Never is.
It's nice. Tyler had 3 or 4 months where he was here consistently, but we're starting to get back to how he was during basketball season a year ago. So it's nice to just kind of rip the Band-Aid off, and I feel like football season's really in a full swing now that Tyler's skipping podcasts and everything.
Yeah, football is definitely back in the full swing. And one of the biggest things I think I've taken away from just seeing what's going on in that quarterback room is it sounds like Zach Calzada's injury is a lot more serious than we initially thought going out of that Ole Miss game. Because, I think you and I both kind of thought maybe just a little phantom injury just to get Cutter into the game and let him start that Eastern Michigan game. If anything, just an abundance of caution not to get him hurt. But the more and more that I've heard just from people around the team, it sounds like this is a real injury, something that could take some time to heal. And it sounds like he's just going to be there as like an emergency quarterback going forward, at least for some time.
Yeah. I mean, you know how I feel. I'm pretty confident in Cutter, at least to, not kill you and lose this game Saturday, but, we'll dive more into that. But I think the kind of correct guys give him the nod here for whatever the reason would be.
Yep, and say I definitely agree with you. I think Cutter does deserve to start at South Carolina this week. And boy, it's going to be a tough matchup, something that we're going to dive a little bit deeper into. Because obviously, we've seen it now. I've had a couple of days to sit and ponder on it. South Carolina is going to be an every-year matchup for us for the next 4 years going forward, along with Tennessee and Florida. So, Jacob, of the teams that were rumored for us to have, those home-and-home matchups with for the next 4 seasons, I think we skated out pretty well. I mean, we avoided a team like obviously Georgia. We've played Georgia a lot lately. We missed out on Ole Miss. Tennessee's the best one of the group that we've got. South Carolina, I mean, they're 2-2 now. Maybe they're coming down off of a high of last season. And I don't know if you can pick a better time to have Florida home and home for the next 4 years. What did you think of when you saw those 3 teams get rolled in with the Cat schedule for the next 4?
Yeah, I liked it. To your point, you don't really get one of those. I don't want to say anything's a layup because we haven't beaten Vandy consistently lately. But you were hoping for probably either there was a world where maybe we got a Mississippi State as they were our opponent when we were our every year West opponent, or Vandy. So you kind of missed out on those two, but. To your point, there were a lot of people predicting at one time or another, like we were going to have Georgia as a regular opponent, to get them out of there. And, I think Florida and Tennessee of like your quote unquote good matchups. I think you take it. We've proven we can play with Florida, beat Tennessee, twice, and, had some good games with them lately. But I think just from the fan aspect and, it's probably the teams we would consider our biggest SEC rivals. Like in football, South Carolina is probably there, and then obviously Tennessee is our number one SEC rival. So I think just from a fan perspective, whether winning the games or not, who knows? I mean, we know we're playing Alabama and LSU next year, so there's a lot going on there. But I think just from the fan perspective, you kind of get continue to play the teams that we like to play and kind of consider a rival, whether, again, you're not getting to Mississippi State, but that is what it is. But every year we're going to have 9 probably really fun and interesting games. Whether we win them or not, we'll see. But part of being a fan is just let's have fun Saturdays, and I think we're going to have a lot of those in the next 4 years.
Yeah, I really think we will. Especially, I mean, the best part about these schedules is playing those teams that we haven't played a lot as of late. You mentioned we haven't played Oklahoma football yet since they've joined the conference. Obviously, this will be our second year playing Texas this year. We've played A&M one time since they've joined the conference. Getting them, obviously, LSU next year as well, Alabama, teams that we don't play a lot. It's going to be fun to have them at Kroger Field. Now, granted, it might only be fun until the kickoff happens. Hopefully, by that time, we figured some things out and we're really humming. But I like it. Obviously, Kentucky fan saying he likes a 9-game schedule, conference schedule. I'm not saying that. But I do like the ability to play teams and go on different road trips because, Jacob, you got some good news. I got some good news during the week. Cats Talk podcast is going to be hitting the road down to Athens, Georgia. Credentialed for the very first time. How do we get here? I don't know how we got here. I don't know how we're going to get back. But I'll tell you what, we're going to have the best content for you you've ever seen when we go down to Georgia. Hopefully the Cats do the same thing. A lot of just things I just threw at you right there. What?
I mean, I'll say, like, I'm not going to be there. It's going to be you and Tyler. And the fact that they let you two idiots get in, like, I don't know what's going on in Athens, but, I mean, it's a really cool moment and a cool step, obviously, for the show. But, happy for you guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. But the fact that we're just 3 idiots that get on here and talk, once a week or whatever, and they're letting us in it's pretty cool. But, yeah, this fan base is going to have the opportunity to make some really cool trips. I know the second it came out, you texted us in our group chat and was like, road trip to Norman next year. Like, just there's going to be a lot of cool stuff, especially, as the SEC continues to expand. And, again, for me with Kentucky football, we're never going to compete for a national championship. Let's make it as fun as possible. Let's go play at some cool places and, have fun with it.
Yeah, and having fun with it, I think, describes what we've done on this podcast so far. Having a lot of fun, even though sometimes the Cats aren't making it as easy for us to have fun some of these football games. But we're really hoping that changes this Saturday against South Carolina. Obviously, during the Stoops tenure, we've had South Carolina's number, but since Shane Beamers came to campus in Columbia, that has changed a little bit. Jake, this is not the South Carolina team that I think I was picturing coming into this game. I think I was expecting them to take a little bit step forward. Even in the preseason predictions, I took their over on their win totals. I know you took the under for them. So we saw the teams a little bit differently, but they're 2-2 coming into this game. And one that I think the Cats have a good chance of winning. I think we'll talk a little bit more about it. But what are you thinking when you see this South Carolina team, what you just saw them do against Missouri, your overall take on this Gamecock team?
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously disappointing to where, a lot of people had them coming into the season. I know I picked them under, but I think I had them under by, like, just a game. I thought they would still have a really good team. It's funny because we talked last week just about how, like, this game feels more winnable than it did. I still don't know if I'm going to pick Kentucky to win, but feels more winnable than we thought before the season. But then you look at it and you got teams like Auburn that it's a lot better than I thought. Tennessee has looked really good to this point, and Vandy, is looking like they're going to be a potential really tough matchup. So my preseason predictions haven't been the greatest, but as far as this South Carolina team, I mean, it's there for Kentucky. I don't know. South Carolina, like, this is a game where their backs are going to be against the wall, and they're going to be playing for everything here. And it's crazy to feel that way in week 5 or, their 5th game of the year. But after losing to Vandy and Missouri back-to-back, they're going to come in and, I think, give Kentucky their best shot. But if they lose Saturday to Kentucky, I mean, this South Carolina team could spiral in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I mean, you can honestly look at it almost like the Kentucky season flipped last year when that Kentucky team started to spiral. You could be looking at that same kind of thing with South Carolina. I think the thing that has kind of shocked me the most about this team is if you'd have told me how well Lenore Sellers has played so far this season and talking about him, almost, not want to say cementing himself the top pick, but you look at almost any mock draft or any guys who are in that business and in that industry, Lenore Sellers is never outside of the top 5. And to see how well he's played and this team is still 2-2 is very surprising. Because I thought if they leaned on him and he was giving those results like he has so far, I thought this team would be a lot better. I know they lost a good amount on defense, but they just cannot stop the run to save their lives. I mean, obviously, Vanderbilt and Missouri, their last 2 games, kind of just ran it down their throat. And the offense right now is so one-dimensional that I think it actually sets up pretty well for Kentucky. Because if you're looking at it, what do you want the team to not be good at? You want them to be bad at run defense. Because we can run the ball, and we've been able to run the ball so far this year. In South Carolina, that's one thing they have not been able to do is stop the run.
Yeah, we're going to have to run, and probably run some more.
Probably more. Couple more.
Yeah, this is going to have to be a McGowan huge game. And, like, I know we're talking about, like, DJ Waller being out, and, you know, the Kentucky secondary has been fairly disappointing from what we've seen. But, like, how do you slow down Sellers in that situation? Well, you run the football, you control the clock, and you kind of keep them off the field, which Kentucky can obviously do. South Carolina run defense is not great. You know, this is a game where I think you can win without, Cutter being great or maybe even good. If you get just a kind of average quarterback play in this game and you're able to run the ball and control the clock, you can go win a, kind of an ugly, 23-20 type of game.
Yeah, we're going to get into it when we talk about, the keys that we need to victory. But just watching this South Carolina team play, there's things that scare me. Obviously, you just mentioned DJ Waller is going to be out, and this secondary is really going to get tested. Our defensive line's been pretty good, though. I've liked the way this defensive line is played. And I want to see – this is going to be a real test for me for Brad White. I want to see if this is where he changes a game plan. Because this is not a typical – South Carolina team. Normally, they're really good at running the ball. They had them with Rocket Sanders last year, able to really run the rock. I want to see if we take some of those guys from that would normally be in the box, maybe run a little bit more dime, get some more corners out there on the field, have those safeties help out more. And Sellers really has not been turning the ball over much. So I want to see if we can actually play a little bit more press, a little bit more man. I know with DJ Waller not being there, it's going to make it tougher. We've got to trust this secondary, and we've got to be able to not have to sell out in the runs. It feels like that's what we've done these first couple of weeks. Trust this secondary, give them a little bit extra help, because I think that's where you're going to be able to win this game. If you help out the secondary, let that defensive line eat, because South Carolina had 75 yards of rushing offense in the past 2 weeks, -9 last week. So 86 against Vanderbilt and -9 against Missouri. That's been their 2 weeks back-to-back. I don't think we're going to need to load the box, drop some of those guys back, allow them to play in those coverage lanes. And I really think this is going to be one where we look at Brad White in a different respect before the game or after the game, depending on how he games plans for this South Carolina offense.
Well, and this team kind of this game sets up for how Brad White likes to play, right? Before the season, we were talking about how we thought the secondary was going to be a lot better than it's shown through the first, 3 weeks. And we said, we want to see Brad White dial up some more blitzes, help in the, load the box, trust these corners on an island. Well, now, this game is setting up to play exactly how he wants to. You can have 3 guys rushing. You can play 8 out, take away, just pretty much say you're not going to beat us with a deep ball, whether it's, Nick Carver or somebody else. And I think if this is the kind of game where if you just keep everything in front of you, you're fine, because to your point, South Carolina cannot run the football. And I think you just have to play. This is pretty much setting up to just play exactly how Brad White likes to play. And I think because of that, Kentucky's going to be able to stay in this game defensively.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned it there. I was going to hit on that a little bit. Just limiting those explosive plays. And that's what Brad White does to a T. That's his MO. I think as long as you get this team to where they have to work to get to the red zone, and then you can start to tighten up that defense like we're used to Brad White seeing, making them settle for 3, just not allowing those big plays, those big deep shots that get you a quick 7, I think will be the recipe for this team to win the game. Because, like you mentioned with the offense, this offense has to stay on the field. This defense has been on the field so much these first 3 games. Even against Eastern Michigan, the defense was out there for a ton of time. I want to see this offense be able to manage the clock. You mentioned it. Seth McGowan has to run the ball. I said it before we got on the air. If he leaves with less than 25 carries, I think I'm going to be upset. And that's even if we do have a fully healthy Dante Dowdell. I didn't see him on the injury report this week, so I'm assuming he's full, good to go. But even with Dante being back, I still want to see 25 carries from number 3 because number 3 has been impressive so far this season.
Yeah, and you hit a really good point right there of, you can let them get all the yards in the world. You can let Sellers go out and throw for 300 again like he did at Missouri. But once they get inside that 20, if you're holding them to 3, which I think Brad White and this defense can do, then I think you can come up with enough touchdowns. You can run the football enough times to, go steal some points. And again, I don't think Kentucky's going to have to score a ton in this game. Who knows? Maybe I look like an idiot when we do this next Tuesday and, South Carolina drops 40 on our head. But like I really don't see you having to score a ton to have a chance to go out and win this game.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Like I said, the biggest cause for concern is obviously a corner that we spent a lot of time talking about. J.Q. Hardaway hasn't performed necessarily to the best of his ability so far through 3 weeks. And your second guy, DJ Waller, is not available for this game. He's listed as doubtful. Normally, if at this point in the week you're listed as doubtful, you're not playing. So I assume he's going to be out for Saturday. So you're relying on young guys like Terion Nichols, who was out for that Eastern Michigan game. He's going to be back for this one. Do they have the deep speed? That's kind of something I worry with a little bit of these corners is the deep speed to be able to not get beat over the top. We know, obviously, you mentioned Nick Harbor already. Elite speed. Guys should probably be playing defensive end if we're being honest. That guy's an absolute freak. And if you've ever played college football, he's just a complete glitch anyways on that game as well. There's a way for this team to win this game. And I really think, I haven't seen the spread, Jake. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I think this team has a good chance to win this game. But I think they just have to get back to the way they were winning these South Carolina games early in the Stoops tenure. Rely on the run game. Think about like Wildcat JoJo Kemp against South Carolina in 2014. I mean, he had a great game. Something was working. We just stuck with it until you couldn't stop it. And I don't know about you. I think I feel a little bit better about Cutter Boley and these receivers than I do about Patrick Tolles and those receivers on that 2014 team. I think this team's got a chance to win this game. I know that I am a fan, and I'm going to talk myself into this, obviously, like we do almost every week. But there's a real recipe for the Cats to win this game. They just have to follow it and stick with it.
Yeah, I did just look. South Carolina's -5.5. So, I mean, I think especially like if Kentucky can come out and, force a turnover, like I think they'll be in a really good spot. Like, if you find a way to give our offense one time, a short field, I really do think like this could. I think this line like 5.5 feels too much to me. I feel like this is going to be a field goal game, one way or the other. And then to your point, yeah, just play this like you did in the early days. Run the football. Maybe I saw a clip the other day of that trick play we ran back when Tolles was here, and like
the deep shot. Haven't heard that name in a while, have you?
Like, find a way to dial one of those up. I know we're not going to, but like that had me reminiscing. You're running all game. You go JoJo and the Wildcat, and he pitches it, and the next thing you know, Tolles has got it back hitting Ryan Timmons. So, but there really is a world for Kentucky to win. And before the season, we talked, and I think all 3 of us said there's kind of 3 games on the schedule like we don't expect to really have a chance. Well, now that's dwindled down to like 1.5. Like, in my opinion, like it's Georgia. You're not going to go win. I don't see a world where you go.
I might bring the good luck down to Athens. You never know. I might bring it down there. I'm gonna give the boys a little bit of a pep talk pregame. I'll be in their ear, chirping them up a little bit. Might leave Athens alive. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, so like Georgia is really like the one true unwinnable game. Like, I still think you're probably got a pretty tough uphill battle against Texas, but you do get them at home. You do get them at home, March.
That might be worse for us, though. You know that.
Yeah. Arch hasn't looked good, but like South Carolina, like I have completely flipped on this game. And again, I know I got probably another 20 minutes before we make our predictions, and I'm still going back and forth on which way I'm going to go. But the path is more than there. This team can go win this game. Now, the big question, we talked about it after the Eastern Michigan game, will this team perform better than other Kentucky teams off the bye? Like that's the big question. Like it sounds crazy, but I would have felt much better if we were playing South Carolina last weekend, or if we had the bye and then we played Eastern Michigan and then South Carolina. This team at some point, Mark Stoops has to figure out how to coach these guys coming off a bye. To me, that really is the biggest hesitation as to, if there is a world where South Carolina goes out there and wins by multiple scores, it could just be because, like we've seen for 13 years now, Mark Stoops teams do not perform well off of a bye.
Yeah, and Stoops has said he's taking a little bit different of an approach. He said they worked really hard last week up until that, I want to say he said that Friday practice, and then he gave them the normal full weekend off. Hopefully that's enough. Hopefully those early, intense practices during the week and then letting the bodies recover. Hopefully that's the recipe and they've kind of found something there. Because I don't know what they were doing previously in bye weeks. You mentioned it. Whatever it was, throw it out of the window because it's not working. Yeah. Get it out of here. Get it far from here because we don't need it. Because this team has been awful off the bye week with Stoops. So hopefully he's cooking up a little bit of something, has found something that's going to work for this team. But I'm telling you, man, there's part of me that feels good. There's also a part of me that's like, they do still have Dylan Stewart off of the edge. Now, granted, they don't have Kyle Kennard. They don't have TJ Sanders as well in that defensive front, and you've seen that a little bit. When Dylan Stewart was getting one-on-ones, especially against the Cats, he cleaned up on them. Obviously, our offensive line is a lot better, and I'm hoping I gotta, you don't like Eric Wolford. If Dylan Stewart's getting one-on-one pass rushes, we've got a problem. If there's not chips or something like that going on, especially if he's lined up against Alex Wolfschlager, who's given up 2 sacks already this year, and has probably been our biggest question mark as of this point when it comes to pass protection up front. I think that's the key for South Carolina to win this game, is to be able to try and control the run and then just get Kentucky into those passing downs where they can unleash a Dylan Stewart, who's just a freak of an athlete and is easily going to be a first-round pick, if not maybe 1-1 overall when he comes out. So that is the recipe of success for South Carolina. Now, what does Kentucky have to do to avoid that? Run the ball, obviously stay out of those passing situations, chip and help and protect on Dylan Stewart. There's not as many, the front's just not as deep. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference in this game from last year to this year, is just that talent depth between the offensive line and defensive line that we saw that was very evident last season. I don't think it's as big this year, and that's why I think the Cats do have a chance. But you got to rely on this coaching staff to put together a good game plan, especially coming off a bye week. And saying that out loud makes me a little uncomfortable and not too happy about it.
Yeah, well, just think about how the game played out last year, right? Like, obviously, Dylan Stewart took the game over and wreaked havoc and, made Brock Vandagriff look like he was seeing ghosts even when nobody was around him. But, just think about everything that kind of led to that. Like, the rushing attack for Kentucky was not near as good last year as it is this year. The O-line wasn't as good last year as it is this year. You couldn't run the ball. You didn't have really high caliber running backs. Your guys that were your 1 and 2 running backs, one's not even really with the team anymore, and he was the 4th string before that, and the other one's now your 3rd string running back. So with that being said, like, there's definitely a world where you come out and you can run the football better. You don't stay in those passing downs. Also, a lot of those sacks came in the second half when you knew Kentucky had to throw the ball as they were down multiple scores trying to get back in it. Like, I just think this game is going to play out a whole lot different. And to your point, like, just get McGowan and then at times Dowdell going. Let them keep you in 3rd and short, or even, hopefully we're picking up first downs and a couple different runs and, you're staying out of 3rd down. But I just think Dylan Stewart's not – they're not just going to be able to just pretty much send all their guys right at the QB knowing that, like last year, Brock Vandergrift was going to drop back and try to hit Barryon Brown or Dane Key downfield and let a play develop. Like, this offense, I think, is obviously looking a lot different through 3 games, and I think the way that they can slow down a guy like Dylan Stewart is everything that I think Kentucky wants to do in this kind of game.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, especially on that last point there. And I think Kentucky's found their identity of what they want to be offensively. I think they found that in that Eastern Michigan game, and that is run the ball 40 times a game. That is rely on that run game. Get the ball to your best playmaker, who is Seth McGowan. He's got to touch the ball. They found different ways to get it to him. They even ran a play off of that gets the ball to Kendrick Law, ended up getting called back, but that was a touchdown before Hardley had the block in the back on that one. It's just playing off of your best players, finding ways to get them the ball, and then guess what? When they're not getting the ball, make it look like they're getting the ball. You know how many times that worked for when we would – half of the plays that Barryon was his most effective on were ones where he wasn't actually getting the ball. He was just a decoy. And I think we're going to have to use that a lot with Seth McGowan this week. Obviously, I still want him to get the ball 25 times this week, maybe even more, because he's a great pass catcher as well. And you really just need Cutter to do what he did last week. We don't need you pushing the ball deep downfield. It's just finding that first read, making the right pass, and just don't put the ball in harm's way. I think he did that a little too much against Eastern Michigan. I think the South Carolina team will take advantage of that. So I just need Cutter, not necessarily to be a game manager, because I think we're going to need a little bit more than that from him to go beat South Carolina in Columbia. But just take care of the ball, trust the guys. I mean, he's roommates with Caddis and Willie Rodriguez. I mean, trust those guys. They've been great so far through 3 weeks. And he's got a great friendship with Hardley Gilmore. You've seen Kendrick Law, when he does get space, he's able to make the most out of it. I'm talking myself into it as we're speaking. The more I do it, I'm trying to stay on the positive train here. The more I do, I'm talking myself into it. But it all comes back to this coaching staff and what their game plan is. Because I feel like if you could tell me, if they had a little cheat sheet right now, just to send over to the Cats Talk Podcast LLC, and you and I could look at that and see what the game plan is, I feel like I could tell you the score.
Well, and the game plan should just be look at what Missouri did last week. They ran for, 280 yards? Like, Missouri's got really good running backs.
Here in Lexington. Not hard.
Yeah.
He should have been here in Lexington.
But, I mean, yes, really good running back, really good player. But you've talked all off season. I've really talked the last 3 weeks agreeing with you. Like, Seth McGowan is a dude. Like, he is – you are seeing the talent that made him a high 4-star recruit that went to Oklahoma and had potential to play early at Oklahoma before his troubles. Like, you're seeing that level of talent. So with that level of talent, like, you got to feed him. You got to go out there and, make South Carolina have to feel like they got to stack the box to stop you. Then at that point, Cutter can, we know Cutter can throw a good deep ball here and there. Like, then you can kind of take your shots to go over the top. But you got to start by running the football, start making them play 8 in the box. And then I think from there, everything else can open up and you can go win this football game.
Yeah, and South Carolina needs to load the box. If they're not loading the box in this game, then this should be just like that Missouri game where you saw Ahmad Hardy just go off. That should be the same thing here for Seth McGowan. And like I said with Cutter, it's just once they do load that box, we've just got to be able to find checkdowns. We've got to be able to find those first reads. And guess what? There's going to be times where those deep shots are called for. Bush is not going to sit there and just think and dunk down the field. We get a little too trigger happy going that way. I don't know if you remember, this isn't the Eddie Graham days. We're not going for 4 yards of carry down the field. Bush is going to want to try and dial something up, and it's just converting on those. You saw some of those last week that he didn't convert on. Then you also saw some where he's just putting the ball in a place where it couldn't be handed off any better. So just need him to be opportunistic in the chances that he gets. And I think this Kentucky team really does have a chance to win this game. You just got to run the ball, get yourself out of obvious passing situations, and then defensively, just play how you normally play. It's literally as simple as that. Let those front 4 guys get after Lenora Sellers, make him make mistakes. I mean, this is still a guy. This is only his second year starting. It's not like he's got everything figured out. He's been great so far this season, but I mean, Missouri's defense isn't great. I don't think anybody would consider Vandy's defense elite either. And Vandy held him to what was that 7 points they got held to that week? Now, granted, he missed some of that game, but I might need to stop talking because the more I'm doing this, the more I'm talking. I came in with my score prediction, and it wasn't going to go the way of the Cats. And the more I'm talking, the more it's leaning over here.
In the trash. You're on board. I know. By Saturday, by 7:45, I'll have a Kentucky money line bet out there. I know for a fact. Especially you're coming over, we're gonna watch it. Have a little group here watching it, and I know by 7:30 there will be a bet in my DraftKings app that has Kentucky money line. But I mean, to your point, like get Sellers to make a mistake. Like if you tell me like we're gonna get a turnover off of Sellers, like I feel confident that Kentucky could go win the game because again I just don't know, like South Carolina's not going to have all the opportunities in the world. Like this isn't going to be a shootout kind of game where Sellers is going to have the ball nonstop and he can overcome an interception or two by going out and throwing 3 or 4 touchdowns. Like I just think Kentucky's going to just control the clock. It's funny because kind of everything we used to complain about in the Eddie Grand era, like now you kind of want them to do it at least just for this one game. I don't know if it's the recipe for a whole season of success, but it's definitely the path for this game.
Yeah, you said that perfectly. The way that we played 10 years ago, a decade ago, that had us ready to fire Eddie Grant.
Terry Wilson year, play that style.
Yeah, I mean and the thing I think that makes the most. Just saying it this way, just control the clock. Because if you give Lenoris a lot of time and you have this defense on the field for a long time, he's going to find ways to beat you. And I think that's South Carolina's easiest way to win this game is going to be to keep Lenoris Sellers on the field and keeping that Kentucky offense off the field. I want long drives. This is going to be one of the only times you're going to hear me say, I want this play clock taken down to 10 seconds before we get every snap off. Now, granted, I don't want people
are lined up in the right position.
I don't want people subbing in and out with 10 seconds, but I want to run these play clocks down. Obviously, if we have momentum, get on the ball, keep it moving. See times for that as well. But this game plays, I think, perfectly into Kentucky's hands and what they want to do and what they want the definition of this team to be is winning this game here. And honestly, if they don't do it, this might start to become a very sour podcast because I think this is probably their best chance to knock off one of the games early in the season that we didn't project them to win.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And like we talked about, the back half of the schedule, which I thought would be a little easier, is now looking a little tougher outside of really Florida. Like I think pretty much every team you kind of finish with is playing better than I expected.
Yep.
But yeah, I'll say like maybe this is like the one thing that like the bye is going to cost us, and like this is how like they just come out and they do everything that we've kind of been begging them to do, and Bush is out there getting them running a no huddle, hurry up offense, and Eddie Grant's blitzing left and right, and I'm sorry, Brad White. Yeah, Brad White's blitzing left and right and leaving the corners, on an island. But I really do think this is a game that if you just play the style that you've played for the last, 10 years, and even the kind of stuff that we've complained in the past, 12 games with Bush Hamden or 15 games with Bush Hamden now, like all those complaints is everything I want them to do Saturday. So I understand it's a very weird, dynamic, but I really do think just everything we kind of complained about, you go out there and kind of do that stuff, you will be in a position in the fourth quarter to go win this game.
Yeah, and I quite literally last week I was complaining because I wanted Brad White to stop giving cushion and stop allowing teams to now I'm begging for them. I mean, they have the athletes to do it. It's a little bit different. Obviously, I don't think Eastern Michigan and South Carolina are on that same wavelength when it comes to talent that they have out wide. But just keep this offense, limit the explosive plays, be opportunistic. I mean, we've seen first drive picks in back-to-back games. What about a third? Get the momentum started, punch it in, starting off 7-0, kind of quiet in that crowd. Now they're all looking around like, man, are we as good as we thought we were going to be? We were riding the high off of last season. Now we're losing to Kentucky at home. Get that crowd questioning, get Lenore's questioning. And if that defensive front can get pressure with a four-man front, I think that'll probably tell you a lot of what you need to know. David Gusta, Marquise Humphrey-Grace. I mean, Sackham Souls is our leading sack guy, and I feel like we don't ever talk about him on this podcast. So I think there's a lot of good guys up front. Just play opportunistic, sound, technical football on the defensive side of the ball, and then just run the ball and keep that defense off the field. Last thing you want is this defense to be gassed, because you've seen it. When this defense is involved with a hurry-up offense, it's lights out. We're giving up 7 points. We're giving up quick scores. So it's on the offense this week to be able to keep that defense off the field. So I think if they do, they'll find a way for the Cats to win this game. Just like you mentioned, I don't know how confident we are in the staff's ability to do that.
Yeah, an obvious thing, but you can't fall behind early, right? You can't have, if South Carolina at any point gets a 14-point lead, I think this game's over, because the second, we talked about it, the second that they get in obvious passing situations, I mean, Dylan Stewart is still a guy. I don't care who we got blocking him. He's gonna be able to wreak havoc on the game. So it's obviously easier said than done, but you got to pretty much make sure at no point you come out there and get a couple scores behind, because then there is a path where the game gets ugly. But I have confidence that they'll be able to keep it close throughout. And then again, I think there will come a point in the fourth quarter late where we'll have the ball with a chance to maybe go, steal the game.
Yep, and that's going to lead me right into our final topic here, score predictions, Jake. You kind of took words right out of my mouth there. I think ultimately, I don't think the Cats are going to find a way to win this game, even though I'm going to
come on, say it.
Talk myself into it by Saturday, and I know that I will. Like you just said there, I do think they find a way to be able to be in this game and have a chance to win this game with the ball, down a score. I just ultimately don't think. I think they're going to wind up being in a situation where they're going to have to play an up-tempo offense to get that last score. I think the Cats are going to lose this game, unfortunately. I'm going to have them losing 24-20. They'll cover that 5.5 that you mentioned. But I do think they're going to – again, like I said, I can see this – whenever you predict a game to be within 4 points, I can see it going either way. I don't see this being a blowout either side. I'll be floored if it is either way. But I do think that South Carolina gets it done against the Cats. Don't ask me on Saturday, but as of Thursday night, that's what I got.
It's so funny because I feel like just about every time we're predicting scores, me and you are right there. I came in here tonight getting ready to say 23-20 South Carolina. And I'm going to be honest, the biggest reason I was probably going to hold to my South Carolina prediction was because I couldn't have all of us picking Kentucky. Because I think Tyler even might have picked Kentucky to win in the preseason.
I believe he did.
So, I couldn't do that. But now that you jumped on the grenade of picking South Carolina, I said 7:30 on Saturday. A money line bet was going to be in my slips on DraftKings. Well, it might be 9:55 on Thursday, September 25th, where that bet gets made. Because I'm starting to feel it, and I know I said I wasn't going to. I think I'm going to stay with the same score, but I'm going to have the Cats winning. I'll go Cats 23-20, and we're going to hit a walk-off field goal as time expires. Cutter makes a couple nice throws on the final drive to get us in field goal range, and we go steal one.
Well, I like your score prediction a lot better than mine, because this way I don't want mine to be right. If I'm ever picking the opposition, I want this to look like the biggest clown take, and they clip me and put me in the Joe Kraft Center the next day and be like, listen to this clown. I can't believe this guy got credentialed at Georgia. How does that happen? This guy should never be credentialed anywhere. But we basically just had the last drive going different, is what it is. The last one, I have Kentucky not capitalizing on that last drive. You
That
have
was going to be my prediction, but yeah, I decided to flip it. But also, mine's a little different because we don't need a touchdown. In your world, they're going to have to march down and get a touchdown. I just need Cutter to get us inside the 30, and
yeah.
we'll feel pretty good.
Unfortunately, I see one of these touchdowns that South Carolina is going to score is going to be from an opportunistic takeaway from South Carolina's defense.
Good.
Whether that be, I mean, we've put the ball on the turf a good amount so far this season. Cutter has put the ball in harm's way. I think South Carolina finds a way to get an interception that's going to lead them to quick points, and I think that's ultimately the difference in why Kentucky would need to go down there and score that game-winning touchdown as opposed to, like you mentioned, just getting any points to win that game.
Yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, you're going to talk yourself into it. You're going to be over here about 5:30 on Saturday.
I'm probably going to bet it now, honest, if we're being honest.
We're ordering some pizzas. You're going to be seeing me knock back a bunch of Miller Lights, and you're going to be like, you know what? The vibes are just too immaculate. We're going to go ahead and cash a ticket here. And, the game's there. Like, I think, obviously I could see South Carolina winning this, but I agree with you. I think it's going to come down a field goal either way. Somebody's going to, I think it's going to be a 3-point game. It's just a matter of who capitalizes at the very end to make those last three.
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect way to summarize just this whole thing. The game is there for the taking for the Wildcats. And, I mean, let's just dream a little bit. Think about what South Carolina's schedule is here. They just faced Missouri, who was ranked 23rd when they saw them. They got LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Ole Miss after this. Is there a chance they're just overlooking the Cats? Obviously, they know this is a tough game just because they are already 2-2. But is there a world where they, not that the foot isn't all the way down on the gas, but they might have that quit in them a little earlier than expected?
No, I actually look at it the other way. I think because they've lost these last two, I mean, if they went and beat Vandy and Missouri and they were sitting here at 4-0 and looking ahead to LSU and some of these other games, I could see, I think they're going to be laser focused. Now, the thing for me is I just don't think this team is as good as, obviously we all thought they would be. But I think they're going to be dialed in. They're going to give it their best effort. That stadium's going to be rocking. They know, like, to your point, they have to win this. I mean, if they lose to Kentucky, they're going to be fighting to even make a bowl, with that schedule. So, they're looking at this as obviously a must-win. And then if they get it, then they can sit there and look and say, hey, if we can, steal some games against LSU and some other teams and get hot at the end of the year, our playoff chances aren't dead. You're literally talking about a team that could maybe hope to still make the playoffs versus a team that maybe won't even make a bowl based on a win or loss here.
Yeah, I mean, that could kind of be the Ole Miss. This could be that game for Ole Miss last season where Kentucky kept them out of the playoffs from losing that game. I mean, you could look at it there because I think, obviously, if this South Carolina team were to win out, I think it's obvious that they're in the playoffs with wins over LSU, Bama, Oklahoma that they still got left on the schedule. But, as Jake mentioned, we ain't going to let that happen. Cats going into Columbia. Beamer's had the number on Coach Stoops. We're done with the Beamer Bowl. Obviously, our resident Shane Beamer lookalike is not here, Tyler Britton. So check out for the game day graphic that we'll have. It'll have Tyler's prediction there. But that's all I've got for the Cats Talk podcast. Jacob, you have anything you want to tell Big Blue Nation before we sign out of here?
Let's just have a fun Saturday, BBN. I want everybody. I know the game's at South Carolina. I want everybody having their own little mini tailgates at their house, getting ready for the game. Have a few bevs, enjoy a primetime night kick at South Carolina, and let's go do the thing. Let's get back to 2014 where we were just running all over them, and if Cutter at any point does take a long run and sticks his tongue out like Steven Johnston, I will lose my mind and I will be ready and I'll be screaming "Go Cats" and "Go Cats."
Yeah, you mentioned it. It's going to be a great Saturday. I'm going to wax you in cornhole before the game starts, and just anything I can beat you in before the game starts. Hopefully, I treat you like Kentucky's going to treat South Carolina.
What happened the last time? What happened the last time you came over here and we played cornhole?
With, left to right, just like the Cats are going to do in South Carolina.
This guy came over and lost twice, and then didn't even touch the boards again that day.
Tyler as a partner. We had Tyler as a partner, so don't put that don't put his reputation in mind. It's not true. This is blasphemy, and I think you cannot hear this. This is blasphemy.
I need everybody that listens to this podcast to understand there was a point in the game where it was 16-0.
Yeah, and I came back. Guess what? We
lost
20.
You still lost, but
guess what? Still lost. You know
a lot of people play 13 skunk. So I mean,
but let's put it this way: I might bring the tripod over, and I might live stream from the Cats Talk podcast these games. Because guess what? Big Blue Nation needs to see you getting taken down because you're not good at cornhole. I mean, you're just like Stoops going off a bye week. You're just not good. And that's how we're going to wrap up this edition of the Cats Talk podcast. Cats take on the Gamecocks in Columbia. It's a night kick. It's going to be a great Saturday. Hopefully the Cats will cap it off with a win. Follow us on TikTok, on X, on Instagram. We're everywhere you can get your podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. We're anywhere and everywhere. And we're credentialed now. That's all I got for you guys. Go Big Blue.
Big Blue.